Welcome to Across the Balkans. Great to have you with us on the show. I'm Nafisa Latic. Serbian President Aleksandar Vucic says his country has not and will not send any weapons to Ukraine. He made the remarks in response to a leaked Pentagon document that claimed Belgrade has agreed to supply arms to Kiev. A 21-year-old member of the U.S. Air National Guard is suspected of being behind the biggest U.S. intelligence leak in a decade. He is facing up to 15 years in prison over charges of transmitting classified information. The Russian Foreign Ministry expressed concerns over the report as its longtime ally Serbia tries to balance its close ties with Moscow. Belgrade has long declined to join Western sanctions on Russia while remaining committed to its EU path. But experts say if the documents are true, that either shows Vucic's duplicity towards Russia or that he is under enormous pressure from Washington to deliver weapons to Ukraine.
Serbia has not, nor will it export weapons to Ukraine. There is no paper that would show something like that.
Meanwhile, Bulgaria's defense ministry also dismissed reports in the leaked documents that said it had agreed to supply fighter aircraft to Ukraine.
The Ministry of Defense has not held talks on sending Bulgarian MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine free of charge. Such a decision would lead to a deficit of capabilities, which is contrary to the Constitution of the Republic of Bulgaria and the Defense and Armed Forces Act.
My guest today is Vuk Vuksanovic. He is a senior researcher at the Belgrade Center for Security Policy. Before that, he worked at the Serbian Foreign Ministry. A great expert to have on this topic. Vuk, hello, welcome.
Thank you.
And now, what has Pentagon report saga revealed to us about Serbia's relations with Russia and Serbia's relations with Ukraine?
Well, we have to underline something that there is still pretty much a debate going on about these leaked documents. What is accurate, what is not accurate, what has been leaked, whether it has been a product of the leak from the leaker who has been arrested, or some are even speculating that the leak was deliberate. But I mean, I will leave those things on the side. As I said, these are the debates which haven't been clarified, and it might very well be that some of them are rumors. But nevertheless, I do think that this happens at a very specific moment in time, and I think that this does tell us something about a very opportunistic nature of Serbo-Russian relations, because the whole point of this relationship is that it is interest-based. It is not the product of some mythical Slavic or Orthodox brotherhood. And this also tells you something that Serbia's, despite all the disagreements, Serbia's cooperation with the Western governments is much more substantial than the one with Russia. So at the end of the day,
do you think Serbia is under pressure from Washington to clarify its position on Russia's attack on Ukraine and openly show commitment to its EU path by imposing sanctions?
I think that there has been evidently some subtle nudging, and yes, probably pressures, but probably behind closed doors by both Washington and the European governments, although I expect that the pressure from Washington was more effective than the one that hypothetically came from the Europeans. On this point, I do think that at this stage, the sanctions are being placed on the issue of sanctions is being placed on the back burner. But nevertheless, we have seen some much more tangible issues, which are much more important, I would say, for Serbia's balancing act between Russia and the West. We have seen the so-called Franco-German proposal on resolving the Kosovo dispute, which has been backed not just by the Europeans, by the Americans. We will see how it goes, but this has definitely been part of the policy of trying to sever link between Belgrade and Moscow. And at the same time, we have seen a whole set of very important security policy collaboration projects between Serbia and the NATO member states. We have seen that Serbia is now ceasing its moratorium on international military drills, and it will participate in the Platinum Wolf exercise alongside U.S. forces. Serbian military will join its US colleagues in a peace mission in Sinai, and Serbia that way breaks with its policy of only joining peace missions which are under UN or EU mandate, so it will be joining a bilateral US mission. And at the same time, we have also seen some reports in the Turkish media that Serbia and Turkey are cooperating on developing early nuclear attack warning system, which would be intended to protect border countries of NATO. So irrespective of, we will see what the further clarification of whether these reports on Serbia supplying ammunition to Ukraine are true or not. But nevertheless, this leak and this news is not occurring in a vacuum.
Right, and seems like the West is clearly sending messages, regardless of the nature of these leaks, is that impose sanctions on Russia, make a deal with Kosovo if you want to proceed with the EU talks. How much damage have these leaks caused to Moscow and Belgrade relations, actually? And what can we expect moving forward from the Serbian officials? I mean, they went out very quickly, all of the Ministry of Defense, President Vucic, and said, we don't plan, nor we did send any weapons to Ukraine.
Well, as I said, the damage, reputational damage and PR damage has been done, I would say, by the very fact that these leaks took place and that this type of information circulated. I personally, instinctively believe that these assertions from the documents were accurate, although I still leave some space that I may be wrong, but this is not the isolated thing. First, we have seen numerous statements from U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and from several high-ranking State Department officials who were constantly thanking Serbia for the support it was giving to Ukraine. So we have never seen actually any clarification of what is this support that U.S. officials were constantly mentioning. And last summer we had a Ukrainian airliner which crashed in Greece, carrying Serbian military equipment. Everybody was saying that the reasons why this was a Ukrainian airliner was purely tactical, given that they are one of the rare airline companies who have this capacity.
Right. And just briefly, Vuk, Serbian defense minister says someone wants to drag Serbia into Russia-Ukraine conflict. Who is he referring to, and who would benefit from it?
Well, the incumbent Serbian government is constantly trying to find some type of conspiratorial adversary in order to justify policies which might be unpopular for the Serbian public. As I said, even if this assertion on the ammunition is not true, we are seeing, I would say, a stage in history where Serbia is not cutting all of its ties with Russia, but it is downgrading them significantly, and where its defense policy collaboration with the West is much more substantial with the Western governments than it is with Russia. But I would say in this particular case, these type of statements are actually being done to cloak one thing, because I think that we are seeing a pattern of behavior where Belgrade is upgrading its defense cooperation with the Western governments, while at the same time it is doing it in a low-profile fashion to avoid any backlash from the pro-Russian parts of the Serbian public opinion and pro-Russian parts of the Serbian electorate.